And now, your hosts, Sean Hastings, an independent filmmaker and screenwriter extraordinaire, Jonathan Solzbar, a writer, graphic designer, and voice actor. Together, these fine fellows form Cinema Filibuster. All right, and welcome to Cinema Filibuster. I am Jonathan Solzbach.
And I am Sean Hastings, in the back seat having to yell.
With us today, a special guest, Andrew Hilzendeger. You may remember him from our Star Wars Episode 7 Christmas podcast. This is another Christmas podcast.
Which we have now, this is, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second annual the second annual Star Wars Christmas Filibuster with special guest star Andrew Hilzendeger.
Hello.
There we go.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
Okay.
And today,
Put your pants back on.
put your pants back on, boy. Whoa, fellas, whoa. This is.
Why are you saying pants? I took my shirt off.
Took my shirt off.
I see the future.
I see it's cold in here. All right. Today
Rogue One, Star Wars.
Today we are talking
Star
about
Wars story.
Rogue One. We're talking what is it? Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Oh my gosh. Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Yeah.
There we go. Gosh.
All right, so let's get this underway. We have a limited time, so this will be
Yes, so please start with your
And hit it.
quickly. I want to know how
mood drowning.
was anybody anticipating this film with great fervor?
I was.
Kinda. I was looking forward to going, this is going to be nice, but I've been burned so much in the past. I'm sadly a bit of a skeptic, so I went into this thinking this is going to be entertaining, but it's not going to change my world.
I'm an unfailing optimist.
Yes,
so
he is.
weeks before I went to go see this film, which was at 1 a.m. in the morning in Seattle.
Oh, wow.
I was, really, really, really excited for this movie. I was fully confident it was going to get a lot better than The Force Awakens.
Were you wearing any Star Wars memorabilia on your person?
I actually keep that strictly to the episodic series.
Okay.
I don't.
I
I don't acknowledge the spin-offs in such fashion.
Oh my goodness, prejudiced, biased.
Hey, now, don't be throwing the P word out here without.
I fully recognize them as good stories and part of the Star Wars umbrella or expanded universe, as Disney now likes to see it.
Oh, sure.
I see.
But I will only dress up for episodes.
I see. Well, I completely forgotten that this film was even going to be released, so it was not on my radar.
Wow.
My brother texted me and said, "Hey, I've got tickets." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that movie's coming out in a day or two."
Cinema Filibuster. We don't know what's coming out from week to week, but we're
Sean knows.
Right now, I
knows.
don't
Yeah.
feel like I'm truly in the company of Star Wars fans. It's so sad. Anyways,
I
John,
love Star
please.
Wars.
We only have 20 minutes of this, so go.
I know. I came away with an epiphany after seeing Rogue One, because my brother was absolutely delighted by it, and I
Yes, he was.
needed time to process it,
Yeah, me too.
which was true of The Force Awakens. But in processing, I realized a lot of people talk about, oh, this was Star Wars, or this wasn't Star Wars, and I had to ask myself, what do I think of being Star Wars? I grew up having seen the films partially on the Sci-Fi Channel, and then getting VHS copies. Then I saw them re-released as a special edition in theater.
97.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Me
for
too.
me, Star Wars, even though it has many books and many video games and many merchandising things, Star Wars to me was a group of 3 films that had already been finished and were part of a story from beginning to end. So the idea of making a new chapter or telling a story before or after, I had to try to filter anything in the light of these 3 films. However, true Star Wars fans will tell you, and I believe this myself, that Star Wars lives beyond the movies. It lives in the fans and around the fans. It binds them together.
Sure.
Books, movies, board games. After those 3 films were concluded, Star Wars continued.
Of course it did.
And that's
As all
where
good universes should.
a tremendous amount of lore and characters developed. But not for John. For John, I saw these movies, I love them.
So you're a fan of the Star Wars movies, not of the Star Wars universe.
It's not that I don't like the universe.
no,
I
but
don't
you
know
just-
the universe.
You're right, yeah. Well, I was going to say, that's kind of me, too. I'm a fan of the Star of... You see, you guys have to understand, I grew up of the generation, the first movie is Star Wars, then The Empire Strikes Back, and then Return of the Jedi. This calling the whole thing Star Wars and giving each episode a different name, that came after my time. So as far as I'm concerned, when you say I like Star Wars the best, you're talking about the 1977 release of A New Hope. It's called Star Wars,
And that's
and
the
I
same
still do.
opinion that my dad holds.
And see, that's what I still call it.
But I don't think that's an accurate assessment anymore.
it's not. But
Star Wars has morphed and grown.
and turned into something else. But I will admit, I am a fan of the movies, and then I'm a fan of the universe. I love the universe, don't get me wrong. I absolutely think it and Star Trek are the two best science fiction universes, probably, or the two most extensive science fiction universes ever created. At least for television and video. I mean, I'm not going into like Dune and some of that stuff, which is equally impressive. But just in terms of things that are unique to their medium, unique to the medium of video, like movies and television, Star Trek and Star Wars, I think, are the top dogs. But I'm a fan of the movie, and it's the same thing in Star Trek. I am a fan of Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
We're not talking about Star Trek.
I know, but I'm just
I was
saying.
going to say, we probably need to get back
You're
on
right.
track.
Anyway,
It's
okay.
a 20-minute podcast.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. Yeah, okay. So anyway,
I bring this up because my brother is very much a Star Wars fan of the universe. And he said it himself when I used to ask him trivia about the movies. Like, I don't know. I know the books. I know the games. Knights of the Old Republic, Jedi Outcast, all this other stuff, some of which I am familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
This rounds out his Star Wars experience and I believe makes him more willing to accept new stories that don't fit inside the Skywalker chronology.
yeah.
So I think Rogue One is, for me, is very much a film that fits in the expanded universe, even though the story leads up to the chronology of the Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
So there was nothing for me in Rogue One, and it didn't feel like a Star Wars film to me.
I can understand.
But I think some of that was intentional. I wanted to stand on its own.
Yeah.
And
What about your thoughts, Andrew?
I'd say I have more feelings towards Star Wars than I do thoughts, because the feelings make my thoughts more complicated.
Of course.
Unfortunately,
Feelings she has.
because I'm more in between loving the original trilogy and loving the expanded universe. Because when I was first introduced to Star Wars, it was in VHS format at my parents' house in Yakima. I watched A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi in the original, first released, dark blue, black
Sure.
cover VHS covers.
Absolutely.
And then my aunt took me to Return of the Jedi, which after that my mom was not pleased because she didn't like how Darth Sidious used the lightning to shock Luke to submission. But after 1997, when the original trilogy was re-released in special edition, that was for me like a portal into another universe. So I think at the core of my fandom is a profound love for the universe that George Lucas created in order to tell a single story. And I think that's why I'm so obsessed with trilogies and big, huge stories. Like I can develop setting for an entire year and never touch characters because I'm in love with the sandbox, how big I can make a sandbox and how complex I can make it.
Some people make a living out of that. Absolutely.
Right. Unfortunately, the Star Wars that I fell in love with ended when George Lucas acquisitioned it to Disney, because George Lucas had basically Star Wars running through his veins for decades, and he had his own voice, his own tone, and these characters are like children to him, which is a line or an emotional connection that he often explained on the internet. And so now that we're 5 years into this acquisition,
Is it really 5 years? Wow.
I've learned to really look at Star Wars in a very complicated way because I am familiar with like Exar Kun and Kyle Katarn and all these other expanded universe characters.
Jan Ors, Blue Milk Run.
Yeah, Blue Milk Run. Oh my gosh, the Jedi Knight series was amazing. I grew up with not just the movies, but with the video games and the books.
Oh yeah, Shadows of the Empire for Nintendo 64.
Seeing Star Wars dictionaries on store shelves in Barnes and Nobles, and seeing like the novel of Luke Skywalker turning to the dark side to serve the light in some twisted way back in like the 90s when I was a little kid. But for me, like Rogue One was amazing because it actually took time and told a really good, well-rounded story, and wasn't so briskly paced like The Force Awakens was.
Right. I liked that too. That it revved up nicely.
And Disney wanted to not just really please the fans, but wanted to like expose everybody to Star Wars all over again. So they thought they had to reboot the franchise in some way, and that's what I think led to the changing of the Stormtrooper outfits, the X-Wing fighters. Even the music didn't seem like Star Wars. But
it was a good soundtrack, though.
It was like a baby miniature version of Star Wars. I'm talking about The Force Awakens here.
Right.
I'm trying to keep my thoughts.
It's very difficult to talk about Rogue One as a standalone film. Is that a problem?
Well, we'll see. No, because
Rogue One is good because, again, it tells a really good story. And for me, it hits all the nostalgia points that The Force Awakens just completely missed.
Can I really quickly ask you, what, in a nutshell, is the Rogue One story?
The Rogue One story is simply expanding upon, not filling in the gaps, but expanding upon the first paragraph of the scroll in A New Hope, where it talks about the rebels winning their first victory against the Empire, and seizing the plans to the Death Star, of which Princess Leia is now a custodian of.
That's true.
And so even though the story was already told in that little snippet, for me it was like, expanding the story. It's like you see it in this very small window right here, but we're going to spread it out and tell the whole story.
Hey, if you can turn The Hobbit into a trilogy, you can turn a paragraph into a single movie.
But for me, like, Rogue One was the experience that I wanted The Force Awakens to be. And so I guess there was that gap in me, that emotional, nostalgic gap that never was acknowledged or appeased. And so Rogue One sort of filled in that gap. And even to this day, I ignore The Force Awakens as much as I do the prequels.
Wow.
Rogue One is the quintessential Star Wars experience, despite the fact there was no Star Wars title, there was no scroll, and there was no, Star Wars theme, but there was the flyby, which was completely gone in The Force Awakens. So Rogue One felt like a stronger, more true to the soul Star Wars spin-off than the actual episode of 7, The Force Awakens.
I can see that, yeah.
And so, again, my thoughts and emotions are so complicated with Star Wars. I've wanted to write an entire website and write articles about how Star Wars has changed, how I remembered it, because...
You should do that. I'd read it.
Star Wars was, to me, this monumental movie experience because you only saw it every 2 years, and it was all by itself. It was just an episode.
Right.
The Phantom Menace happened, and then 2 years later, you start seeing advertising for episode 2. It's all by itself. Nothing else is interfering with it. But now, you're going to get Star Wars every single year. You're going to get a spin-off, every other year. You're always going to be inundated with Star Wars cinema, whereas before the acquisition, Star Wars was more this novelty event that was mythic, legendary, and...
Well, I've got you guys
so
beat
much
on
impact.
that. When I was a kid, we had to wait 3 friggin' years before we got the next one, and I had to watch Han Solo get carbonated, and then wait 3 years to find out what happened. So I don't want to hear any bellyaking.
Sean,
I sat through that crap. 3 years of is he going to make it? Anyway, sorry.
So, Andrew, you really enjoyed Rogue One. Sean? For you, Andrew, it was Star Wars. More so than Abrams' piece.
Mm-hmm.
Sean? Was it Star Wars to you? Was it a standalone film in the Star Wars universe? What was Rogue One?
I'm just trying to. I'm just trying to see.
Shaking.
I'm just trying to see how long you're going to stretch this out before I say anything. I was going to wait for an uncomfortable silence and then say it. Anyway, no. I went in. Like I said, I was kind of went into this with. I'm not going to say hopes set low because it looked like a good movie, but it exceeded what I thought it was going to be, and it felt Star Warsy to me because of all of the Star Wars architecture that was there, X-wings, right, and and red leader and gold leader. But the thing that I took away from it, and I guess it's my need to overlay stuff, but this was the Magnificent Seven in space. The Magnificent Seven's a great movie. It's one of my favorite movies. I'm looking forward to the remake. But I thought, this works. I like this combination. My favorite types of movies, as you can attest, are the thrown-together hodgepodge group of losers who are all really good at their job that end up accomplishing something great. Sneakers, Ghostbusters, I like that archetype very much. And this really filled that in. My only regret is... Are we spoiling, guys?
Yeah, we'll just say.
My only regret is that we're not. My only regret is that we're not going to see Rogue 2, because I liked these guys. I want more. I want and forgive me, I cannot remember any of the characters' name, but Kwai Chang Caine, the blind guy who Chirrut, who could whoop the dog out of any Jedi I have ever seen
with a stick.
Forget Darth Maul. He would turn Darth Maul into dog food. I loved that guy. And no force, and see, that goes back to the spirit of humanity is better than any outside external force that can go into you. That's not a play on words. But anyway, but what I was going to say is, I love that kind of movie, and that's what this movie was.
But did you love this movie?
Yeah, I did. No, I did. I liked it an awful lot. And like I say, it's because it's the Magnificent Seven in space told with a Star Wars veneer. Because it had, like I said, all the Star Wars architecture in it, all of the stuff, and I liked all of that stuff. But, I guess the one thing I should say, one of my favorite actors of all time is Peter Cushing. I loved that man. I loved him as a human being because he was a really cool guy. Never met him, but everything I've ever seen, everybody that ever knew Peter Cushing loved him, played Doctor Who. Grand Moff Tarkin is my favorite Imperial character. Completely. Of any Emperor, Darth Vader, I don't care. Any Imperial character, Grand Moff Tarkin rocks the wall. And he came back. I have not, and I'll say this, I've said this to you guys previously, I have not been aghast and astounded at a movie in probably 25 years. And when I saw his reflection in the glass, I thought, okay, you're playing with my emotions. Oh, there's Tarkin. It made my heart race, my favorite guy. And then the guy turns around and starts spouting dialogue, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa! It was incredible. That was my favorite event in a movie probably in the last 10 years.
Okay.
Because I love Tarkin, and Tarkin's in this movie. Tarkin is in this movie, and I'm like, yes.
That's all the time we have for today.
No, hold on. Really quickly, we do have 1 minute left.
1 minute.
And I've got a springboard off of your praise of Rogue One. The reason why I was incredibly excited to see this movie, I knew I was going to see the original X-Wings in a new modern film, with modern special effects and everything. And
it did not disappoint.
And there was the Tri-Wing shuttle that Orson Krennic flew in, which should have been the shuttle in The Force Awakens for Kylo Ren, because again, the two-winged shuttle that Kylo Ren flew in made no sense to me. It was not Star Warsy. I've always remembered.
Right.
Is that a technical term?
Yes, it is.
It is. I guess, but
very technical, John.
It did not remind me of the white Imperial tri-winged shuttle that I fell in love with in the original trilogy, whereas Orson Krennic's shuttle did. I was like, that is the perfect upgraded version of the white Imperial shuttle. And then to conclude, I was in near tears when the guy with the staff actually held his staff and right in front of him and literally
I believe in the Force and the Force is in me. Oh my god, that was cool. I liked that.
He was completely defenseless, but he was the only character without using Force powers or using a lightsaber to defend himself, relying on the faith of the Force to actually accomplish the mission. The only time I've ever been affected emotionally like that is when I saw Hacksaw Ridge, which was actually a greater tribute to the Christian faith than Fireproof could have ever been, Courageous could have ever been, or any other Christian film, with the rare exception of The Passion of the Christ.
And Rogue One.
Oh, my word.
And Rogue One. Okay, let's bring Rogue One back.
Sacrilege.
But
Sacrilege.
the final point that I want to make here is, without Han Solo saying "we're home," thanks to J.J. Abrams' apparently brilliant writing,
he made air quotes, ladies and gentlemen.
I was telling myself I'm finally home when, at the very last moment of the film of Rogue One,
we have hope.
We have the rebel soldiers running through the white corridors. That it was literally the perfect, throwback for me to the first scenes of A New Hope. I was like,
I remember those guys who got killed.
With no names. This is the true Star Wars experience, and I was like, Gareth Edwards, you did an amazing job.
He did. He really did.
And
I liked it better than Episode 7 myself.
Yeah, and I was like, Kathleen Kennedy, you did a good job in hiring this guy, but you do not understand Star Wars. Gareth Edwards and George Lucas understand Star Wars. They get it. Yeah. In fact, Gareth Edwards should have directed The Force Awakens. Okay, J.J. Abrams loves Star Wars, but he does not do well with character development. He butchered Star Trek in terms of character development, but he really...
get back on Star Trek.
Okay, man. Star Trek's powerful. Anyway, I guess
I just have a strong disdain for J.J. Abrams.
I sense the disdain in this one.
All right, I guess we should start doing some up. All right, I guess, John,
Well, as I told you, gentlemen, at IHOP, it is the best fan film I've ever seen.
It's not a fan film.
It's a fan film.
It's not a fan film.
And as a fan film, it will never be. It will never be the legitimate article, but it's a very fine fan film.
It's more authentic or genuine article than Force Awakens.
Did you like? I mean, because like I said, I was kind of the same way. I liked it because it was like the Magnificent Seven. But interfering with it, it's right next to the mic. Anyway,
you won't be able to hear a thing that says "plan." Silence. You're censoring.
No!
Rebellion!
Rebelling!
Where was our scene of Jin and the TIE Fighter, guys? They cut that out.
Help! I'm being repressed.
There was so much promised in trailers that they cut out of that final film. Anyway.
Well, because they redid it. Anyway, but I guess to sum it up, Andrew loved it. I really powerfully liked it. John could care less.
As I watched it, I thought, this is okay. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, I don't like it.
Okay. I can see where you're coming from.
Did you ever provide reasoning for why that is?
Don't have enough time.
No time. It didn't.
It is the will of the Force that John would not like the film.
But what I was going to say though,
it's the will of the Force that John has not shared his opinion.
There are great moments because it's a fan film. You get great dialogue from the droid. You get quips. You get callbacks to things that you know to be Star Wars. But it's, as you said, Sean, it is the veneer of Star Wars with no heart and no story.
Oh, no, I disagree. I think it does have a story. I think it's the Magnificent Seven.
Yes, I'm about to.
They did. No, it is a... but John,
it's a plot. It's not a story.
No, but
the story is Galen and his daughter, and that's abandoned. It's lost. It's completely lost.
No, it's okay,
really?
See, this is John.
I have to go.
Are you saying there's no character development for Captain Cassian?
I'm saying there's no story. There is the beginnings of story threads that don't go anywhere before everybody dies.
What is a story to you?
Characters. You've got characters.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Sean Hastings.
You have archetypes. I'm Jonathan Sulzbach.
And you are
Andrew.
And we agree to disagree.
All right.
Until next Christmas.
Adios. Where we're going to be podcasting Star Wars.
Episode 8.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is probably going to be part 1. We might come back with a part 2 in another couple of months because this is not going to be settled here. But anyway, John has to go home, Andrew has to go do something, and I have to go to the bathroom. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Sean Hastings speaking for Jonathan Sulzbach and Andrew Hilzendeger, who is not going to allow talk because they're not going to stop, saying, this has been a Cinema Filibuster. Like, comment, and subscribe. Color us gone.
And now, the credits. Intro music by Henry Kadib. Outro music by Matt Steiner. Show concept and creation by Sean Hastings and Jonathan Sulzbach.
Find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and of course, cinemafilibuster.com. Leave a comment at any of those venues and we'll read it in a future episode. Thanks for listening.